What is queer cinema? Is it a genre, a movement, a useless label? Perhaps it is a body of work with common themes centering on the queer experience. Or is it cinema primarily written or directed by LGBTQ artists? Must it center queer characters and narratives, or is it something more abstract than that? Is it any movie with a gay or trans person in it? These are the questions I will be ignoring in this video, and instead leading you on a goofy little romp through queer movies. According to moi. I think examining the concept of queer cinema with too much scrutiny is pointless, to be honest. Like, is Mulholland Drive queer cinema? The central romance is between two women, true, but it is the oeuvre of David Lynch, R.I.P., a straight man. So, is it an example of the male gaze, a fetishization of lesbian romance? Well, maybe a little. Obviously, there's no denying that it's a beautiful film, and it very much passes the Bechdel test, and its exploration of psychosexual deviance and trauma is certainly adjacent to what I would call queer theming. I guess I personally would define queer cinema as films that somehow center queer perspectives. But I do feel like queer cinema, to me at least, kind of entails the heavy involvement of actual queer people. Yes, a work in isolation may have all the trappings of queer cinema on paper, but if no queers were involved, then how queer can it really be? But this is very difficult to verify and becomes a slippery slope of outing people, so I won't be focusing too hard on the personal identities of the creators. I can hear your sock in the video. Speaking of queer cinema, is this queer cinema because my boyfriend's here? Yes. I don't know. What I do know is, in my search for movies to discuss for this video, I realized that queer cinema is a much smaller genre, if it can even be called a genre, than I initially thought. There aren't that many queer movies here on this list. That's why this is even a doable video. But in the interest of making this video fun and fluffy and relatively easy, let's go with a tier list, shall we? You may be wondering, what is the criteria for these rankings? There is none. It is literally just what I like best. So, keep in mind, this is just my opinion, it's very subjective, blah, 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 blah. But, you know, if you want to hear yet another white dude word vomit about cinema, but this time with a little bit of zest, this video's for you, chap. S tier. This I'm categorizing as, like, literally life-changing movies. Released to great acclaim in 1990 and filmed by Jennie Livingston, who is a white genderqueer lesbian, over the course of the prior decade, during the throes of the AIDS crisis, Paris is Burning just may be the most monumental film in queer history. It's a documentary about the queer and primarily Black and Latino ballroom culture of the mid to late 20th century. The film has generated a lot of praise and a lot of controversy over the years, and we're still grappling with its legacy. Famous Black feminist scholar Bell Hooks wrote a well-known critique of the film upon its release, wherein she claims that the politics of the film, quote, played out in ways that are both progressive and reactionary. Which surely is true of any documentary, honestly. I don't claim to be the arbiter of the queer community, and my experiences of race and class privilege are obviously the lens through which I see the movie. But regardless of what you think of Paris is Burning, it is a deeply important historical text, which documents a history that is being increasingly pushed into the shadows by the reactionary right. I won't spend too much time on a deep analysis of the subjectivity of the film and its ethics, or on refuting every point that I disagree with in Bell Hooks' writing, but I did want to address it a bit. One common critique of the film is that it was exploitative of its subjects in multiple ways. Livingston has had to address these claims many times, especially after multiple eventually dropped lawsuits from some people who were in the film, asking for greater compensation. In the end, 13 of the film's stars got some portion of $55K. Not a lot, but Yes, Livingston was not an organic part of the community which she was documenting. And yes, Livingston was propelled into notoriety and success relative to many of the film's subjects who remained struggling. I mean, it's not like she's a millionaire, but, you know. However, given the mixed responses from the actual people filmed, given the mixed responses from the actual people featured in the film, I don't think it's that black and white. In Livingston's words, quote, "I didn't go to film school. I don't have a film education, and I never suggested I did. I took one summer class, and I shot that one ball, which is not in the finished film. I never said, Ebe, I'm going to make you a star. I went in and said, I'm interested. Will you talk to me? I honestly, to this day, do not believe that anybody who signed those release forms was incapable of understanding what it meant. Nobody was illiterate. Some people were college educated. Plus, most of the people in the film had spent a lot of time with me before the bulk of the footage got shot." Given that the film was a documentary with no expectation of compensation stated at the time of production when everybody signed those release forms, and B, only grossed a total of $3 million at the box office, much of which I'm sure had to go to distributors, producers, crew, etc., I think this at least makes sense. Obviously, the subjects of the film could have used more money, and I wish the film's success had done more for them materially. But to me, the making of this movie doesn't seem like a clear-cut case of a person using their power and privilege to profit from those who are more marginalized. The film has also been criticized, especially by Hooks, as exploitative in the sense that the ballroom scene is treated as a spectacle. Which, I mean, ballroom is inherently a spectacle, but I understand what she means. Hooks makes the claim that Pérez celebrates a, quote, brutal imperial ruling class capitalist patriarchal whiteness, end quote. She makes the movie out to be like an ethnographic exploitation film for rich whites to gawk and laugh at the subjects, saying that Livingston is positioned as a, quote, virtuous white woman daring to venture into a contemporary heart of darkness to bring back knowledge of the natives. To be sure, many audiences did receive it this way. Okay, Hook says, watching the film with a black woman friend, we were disturbed by the extent to which white folks around us were entertained and pleasured by scenes we viewed as sad and at times tragic. Often individuals laughed at personal testimony about hardship, pain, and loneliness. Wow, that sounds awful. I couldn't imagine how that would feel, to hear laughter at the expense of the movie's subjects with whom you share a marginalized identity. It sounds like a really shitty audience to watch the film with, to be real. However, I don't think the film celebrates upper-class whiteness or white femininity as much as certain aspects of ballroom itself kind of do that. In fact, the film offers a discussion of the role that the image of the well-kept white woman plays as an icon in these communities. The film and the people within it are not uncritical of this facet of ballroom cultures. They're aware of this and engage with these aspects in a complex way, as Hooks herself admits when she praises the reflective narration of Dorian Carey. And yeah, Livingston may be an outsider to the community she filmed, but Bell Hooks is also an outsider, as many responding scholars are quick to point out. I noticed when rereading her chapter after a few years that she actually expresses some pretty regressive and gender-essentialist views, including kind of implying that drag itself is an inherently patriarchal and misogynistic practice, something that I don't agree with. She also misgenders the late trans woman Venus in it, and that's not just like, oh, well, it was a different time, because no one else in the film does that. No one else in the film ever calls Venus anything but a woman, and she makes it quite clear how she wants to be seen. There's so much more I could say on the Bell Hooks chapter specifically, but at this point, like, God, this video is turning into a video about Bell Hooks. So I'll wrap that part up with this excerpt from another interview with Livingston. The interviewer asks, Bell Hooks has criticized the film as being exploitative and too focused on the spectacle side of this subculture. How would you respond to that? And Livingston replies, she felt the identities in the film were not resonating with the white audience, that they were othered and therefore othering her. She also felt the ball world itself wasn't politically in a direction she would like. It was a kind of personalized community that she didn't like politically, and that's fine. I can't argue with that. What I have issue with is that she talks about white critics who got it wrong. She never acknowledged the popularity with queer black critics. She didn't see how valuable the film was to queer black audiences. She didn't acknowledge they needed a hit. So it's fine to say I, as a straight black woman, have issues with the film, but I didn't think it was entirely cool to silence the black and Latin queer people who gravitated towards the film and got a lot of sustenance from it. End quote. And a lot of people did get sustenance from it, including the Afro-Latino queer writer of the show Pose, which is heavily inspired by this film. I don't know, like, for a time I felt guilty about how much this movie changed my life and how much I loved it. I felt betrayed when I first had to consider the possibility that it could have been exploitative. Over time, I've come to peace with this aspect of the film. I can admit that there are less than savory dynamics surrounding the making and reception of this movie, where it seems like mostly white, privileged consumption of both the suffering and spectacular images of mostly black and brown queer people. People who did not always benefit as much as they should have from the film. But overall, it is still a huge entry in film history and queer history, and it's still very close to my heart. And I wish only the best to the folks who were involved. I saw the TV Glow in an early screening with some friends at an indie theater, and Jane Schoenburn did a Q&A afterwards, and it was fucking awesome. Going in, I had no idea about this movie other than it's a trans allegory and it's a surrealistic indie flick. Those things were definitely true. I ended up crying during this one. It was a very emotional experience for me. I don't always do that at movies, especially in theater settings, but it really got me. It was just beautifully done. And it was very relatable as a trans person, but more so than my own experience. I was kind of focusing on my boyfriend's experience because he transitioned later than me, and that's more of the vibe of the movie with the "there's still time" theming. But I really admire Schoenburn's style and their exploration of media and technology as a channel of identity. In the words of Peyton McCarty-Simons, quote, "TV Glow's meditation on media fandom as an unstable lifeline for queer adolescents is a tragic portrait of potentialities never quite reached." And yeah, I hadn't really thought too deeply about that before, but with both the depictions of the TV show The Pink Opaque and even the diegetic musical numbers at the bar where adult Owen and Maddie reconnect, it seems to evoke the importance of media as something for people, especially queer people, to grab onto. It certainly was and is for me. To quote again, "Owen and Maddie's friendship is made more intimate by its mediation through shared parasocial obsession. They rarely speak. Rather, Maddie's tapes come with scrawled notes shown on screen, whose tone perfectly capture the high-octane confessionality of a teenage diary." It was just a really powerful viewing experience for me, so it's definitely going right at the top of the list, S tier. Honestly, no idea why this movie was utterly ignored by award season when it's exactly the kind of like artsy, profound, and relevant shit they would theoretically eat up. Are they just really not ready to acknowledge a trans director? That feels fucking dumb. Like Emilia goddamn Perez gets a billion BAFTAs and an Oscar. Whatever. Alright, moving on. This is my A tier. Shiva Baby. I love Shiva Baby. Of course I love Shiva Baby. How could I not? It's so Jewish and gay and cunty and just like funny and sad, and it's just fantastic. Side note, how the fuck is Rachel Sennett not Jewish? Like, this is potentially the biggest mystery and, dare I say, betrayal I have suffered at the hands of an actor. It's so baffling to me that she's not Jewish. The other movies on my A tier, I have Tongues Untied. So Tongues Untied aired on PBS in 1989. It's a movie by Marlon Riggs, which delves into the unique intersection of racialized and gendered experiences of queer black men. Tongues Untied is an experimental, poetic sort of video essay type film, combining the art of spoken word with the grit and texture of videotape in that kind of like video live movement where tape was really democratizing the art of movies. I feel like it revels in the unapologetic depiction of gay black sexuality, pain, and hope. It's a great movie. Isaac Julian's Looking for Langston also is a film about gay black men, and it was also released in 1989. It's an ethereal, lyrical, black and white film which recreates vignettes about poet Langston Hughes' life in kind of an abstract, semi-narrative way, and it's a really visually beautiful film. So that one's gorgeous as well. That's definitely in my A tier. Everything, Everywhere, All at Once, definitely also in my A tier. As the hype for this movie has died down, it's easy to look back at it, for me at least, and be like, wait, this wasn't actually that good, was it? Just kind of remembering bits out of context, because it seems corny in ways, though it was intentional. But I remember crying during this movie. It's deeply unique, funny, and heartfelt, and it's able to speak on the experiences of Asian Americans and immigrants in general regarding assimilation and cultural change, things like that, while also being fast-paced, action-packed, and very funny. It's all centered on a mother's journey to accept her lesbian daughter and how that prompts a deep self-reflection for that mother. And I think it's a really cool choice to make the mother and not the daughter the protagonist and the character who we get to see most deeply. Also, I have But I'm a Cheerleader. This shit is an icon of queer cinema. It is a masterclass in effectively using camp, both in a figurative and literal sense, because it takes place at a conversion therapy summer camp for teens, as an art form which enhances the movie without taking away from its seriousness. It's directed by Jamie Babbitt, Let's Go Lesbians, and it is her debut film, as hard as that is to believe, based on its immense success within the queer community. Though apparently upon release, it really flopped, with mainstream critics, fuck y'all, anyway. It's just very funny. I mean, RuPaul plays a sexually repressed football coach at a straight camp. Natasha Lyonne, the most lesbian-coded straight woman ever, plays the main character, a lesbian teen who ironically learns to accept herself at the homophobia camp. And it's just really, really good. Jennifer's Body. I love this movie too. I mean, it's a horror comedy with alt-rock emo vibes and bisexual overtones. What's not to love? What's not to love about this shit? I absolutely adore director Karen Kusama's work, and this is probably my favorite movie of hers, though The Invitation is also fantastic. It's really aesthetically cohesive, and its fossilization of that 2010s high school culture with a unique twist is very fun. And it does actually have things to say about women's sexuality and experiences of misogyny. Megan Fox is just fucking killer in it. Literally. Very good. The Passion Project of Cheryl Dunye, The Watermelon Woman, is a fiction film in the style of an autobiographical documentary. It explores the experiences of black lesbians in a way that is both serious and funny. It, quote, addresses the serious political issues of the lack of visibility of black lesbians in film in a comedy, thus avoiding the emphasis on suffering and despair that characterized films about lesbians, end quote. Another really cool thing about this film is that when you're watching it, you really don't know how much of it is staged or made up. I, for one, was under the impression that the actress who the fictionalized version of Miss Dunye focuses on, simply known as the Watermelon Woman, was a real historical figure. It's not until the end credits that read, "Sometimes you have to create your own history. The Watermelon Woman is fiction," that I realized she's not real in a literal sense. In general, Cheryl Dunye excels at blurring the lines between history and fantasy, reflecting on the medium of film, or in this case, video itself, in a very reflexive yet unpretentious way. It's just a really great movie. I was maybe going to put this in B, but I really did love this movie. So yeah, it's going to go in A tier. This is The Handmaiden. Written and directed by Park Chan-wook, it's billed on Wikipedia as a, quote, South Korean erotic historical psychological thriller film. Which, while a bit of a mouthful, is certainly accurate. I fucking love this movie. It's stunning and entrancing in every sense. I was glued to the screen for its entire 2.5-hour duration. And while it's mostly highly critically acclaimed, I did find this one review on Rotten Tomatoes that kind of stuck in my mind. I'll find out the username of the person and put it on the screen in a bit, but it goes, Quote, "It is a male-gazy, exploitative knockoff of the British miniseries Fingersmith, based off of the novel by Sarah Waters, a real lesbian who wrote for women. This version caters to the most boring and predictable demographic of all, men." End quote. Is this true? I'm not sure. There's also plenty of women, and queer women at that, who love this movie. I've seen a lot of them raving about it on Letterboxd. I'm a man and I liked the movie, but I don't know. I did feel a little bit aware of the male gaze, so to speak, when watching all those gratuitous sex scenes, and the bells, they were chiming. If you know, you know. Totally fucked up by Gregor Rocky. I haven't written anything about this one ahead of time, but basically it is centering on a bunch of queer teens in the 90s, and I think it does a pretty good job capturing the kind of misfit vibe that a lot of queer teens feel when they're alienated from kind of queer culture at large, but also from like straight culture, and they're kind of trying to navigate things. And I don't know, my boyfriend says that the dialogue was really annoying to him, which I totally get, because it's kind of stylized, like, they speak like pretentious teens, and to be real with you, I feel like I kind of used to talk that way. I don't know, it is very 90s, so that could definitely contribute to that. It does have a bit of a sad ending, but I don't know, I think it's a good movie. And then we have Bottoms. This is a teen sex comedy, but it's about some loser lesbians, which is fun. That one stars Iowa Debris and Rachel Sennett, and I think Iowa Debris was also the writer, if I'm not mistaken, of the movie. I'm going to have to check this out and give you the deets in post on the screen, but she's fucking hilarious. Both of them are really funny. It's just a very funny movie, and I think it really takes a lot from But I'm a Cheerleader in terms of its like stylized, campy high school setting. It's just really fun. There's, I'm not going to spoil too much, but there's a lot of like really cool fight choreography in it as well, because it's about basically these lesbians starting a fight club as an excuse to like hang out with hot girls. It's very fun. Love it. I saw it in theaters with a bunch of queers, and it was great. So there's Hedwig and the Angry Inch. I love that movie. That one's a classic of queer cinema. It's about this like drag queen slash maybe trans woman, but not really. I don't know how to explain it. And she's just going through it. She's just really going through it. Then we have Problemista. This one is by Julio Torres. I fucking love him. He's written for SNL a bunch, and he has a lot of his own stuff. I saw him live doing some stand-up. He's really funny. Some of his stuff is a little bit too like artsy and heady for me, to be honest with you, but this movie was really good. Problemista is, I think it's a good balance of like heartfelt and funny and like just weird and surreal, like all of his stuff is, but like not too alienating. Like it still had a story and a narrative, and I liked the characters. So that's a great one. There's also this movie called 120 BPM. It's a French film. It's set during the AIDS crisis in Paris. That one is really good too. I haven't watched it in years, but I remember loving it. And it has a really great soundtrack of all of those kind of like disco, semi-deep cuts that the gays were bopping to back then. And then we have Disclosure. That's a really great documentary about trans representation in media. It's by trans people, which is awesome. And it features trans actors and just writers and people in the film industry in general talking about their experiences with filmic and media related images of trans people. It's very cool. Then I've got Challengers. Watched this one recently. I really loved the movie. It's very like stylish, rhythmic, very sexy. It's a great movie. The music is a really fun choice. I really like Luca Guadagnino. I don't know how to pronounce his name. I'm not Italian, forgive me. But it's a great movie. It's only in my B tier instead of A, just because I don't really give a shit about tennis that much, to be real. It made me care about tennis for the duration of the movie. But as soon as the movie is done, I'm like, okay. And then we have Moonlight. This is, everyone knows this movie. It's objectively a very beautiful movie. Barry Jenkins, I believe he wrote and directed it. The cinematography was by James Laxton, with whom Barry works pretty consistently throughout his body of work. It's like a coming-of-age drama, and it's set in Miami. It's about, like a gay black man growing up there. And all right, let's move on to C tier. These are movies that I still really did enjoy, actually. Even though C tier sounds like it's mid, for me, we don't get into like E territory until like fucking E, honestly. I watched Carol very recently, and I think it is a really good film. I enjoyed it a lot. It got me to be actually kind of interested in like a slow burn romantic drama period piece, which is definitely not always my thing. The chemistry between the two leads is really great. They're really sweet together, and I did really enjoy the movie. But it's not my fave. It's just not my thing generally, so it's in the top of my C tier though. And then Portrait of a Lady on Fire, kind of a similar vibe. I watched this one recently as well, and it was really good. Definitely a beautiful romance, just, again, not my genre in general. The concept itself, I think, is a really good one for, like, a classic star-crossed lover's tale. Female painter hired to paint a wedding portrait of a noblewoman in secret because said noblewoman does not consent to her arranged marriage, so the painter has to steal long glances at her so that she can then rush away and paint her likeness later in secret. And they fall in love, blah, blah, blah. It's very tragic, very visually beautiful. It's a great movie. It's just not one of my all-timers. So, like Carol, into the top of C tier you go. We also have Dog Day Afternoon. This one is it's based on a true story. I think Robert De Niro plays the kind of main character, but he's a bank robber who's robbing a bank to fund the transition of his trans woman partner. And he's kind of chill, honestly. I'm like, get it, okay. Get the money. So it's a good movie. Then we have My Own Private Idaho. This one is mostly appealing just because Keanu Reeves and River Phoenix are like hot gay rent boys in it. To be real with you, they're just really sexy. The movie's fine. I don't remember it that much other than the fact that they're hot. Then there's also Fight Club, which I'm including in here, okay? I think Fight Club is queer cinema. It's based off of a novel that was written by a gay man who admittedly, said that there were gay overtones to the story, and it had those themes in it. So, I'm not crazy, okay? Straighties, Fight Club is queer cinema. Fucking deal with it. It's a really good movie. I really liked it, but I don't know. Just in retrospect, it's like, okay, whatever. They hate capitalism. They're blowing things up, blah, blah, blah. Oh, it's the guy. It's a good movie. I don't know why I put it in C tier. I think it's more B. Look, some of these I'm just putting a tier down just because I haven't watched it in a long time and it's not fresh in my mind. Same with the movie Tangerine, which is about a trans woman and her pimp/boyfriend, I guess, trying to find him. Fuck, what is that movie about? I need to look this up because I don't remember. It came out in 2015. Now I'm getting AI results about the fruit. That's great. Shut up, Google. Okay, so Tangerine is directed by Sean Baker. A hooker tears through Tinseltown on Christmas Eve searching for the pimp who broke her heart, is the description on IMDb. It's fun, it's funny, it's a good movie. I also put The Favorite here. I liked The Favorite a lot. I saw it in theaters, but it's going in C tier just because it's not one of my top movies. Again, just because I haven't seen it in a long time, honestly. There's really a trend here, huh? And it's that Sam's memory is not good, and when he watched a movie a long time ago, he just doesn't feel confident ranking it highly. Okay, so it's a satirical absurdist period dark comedy film, according to Wikipedia. It's directed by Yorgos Lanthimos, hashtag Greek representation, and it's a very good movie, okay? It's set in the early 18th century. It's about Queen Anne and her close friend, Lady Sarah. There's definitely some gay sex in there. I remember my boyfriend was watching it with his granddad because they didn't know that there was lots of gay sex in it, and that was awkward for him, right? Right, babe? Yes. He says yes. I've been drinking coffee during this video, so I kind of have to shit now. So then in my C tier, again, mostly because I haven't watched it in a long time, and because I vaguely remember, I mean, maybe if I watched it now with my mature cinematic eye, I would like it more, but it didn't have much plot. Not that that was the point of it, but Wong Kar-wai's Happy Together. So he is a director from Hong Kong. This was, I feel like, a pretty important depiction of a queer couple. It's a romance between two men, and the couple goes on a trip to Argentina, and it's kind of about their on-again, off-again romance that's kind of falling apart, but it's also very beautiful. I remember it being very visually gorgeous, and it's both in black and white and color film. It's very stylized and kind of dreamy. I did really like it, but, you know, it's not one of my favorites. Then I have Pariah. This was a film written and directed by Dee Reese in, I think, 2011. It's about a young black lesbian. She's kind of like a masked lesbian, like a stud kind of character, and she is kind of figuring out how to negotiate her sexuality versus like her family and friends, and just trying to kind of find herself in relation to her community. It's definitely a really good movie. I watched it many years ago, so I don't remember all the details, honestly, but I remember enjoying it. Rafiki is a Kenyan movie, co-written and directed by Winuri Kahiu, and it is about lesbians trying to not be like hate crimed and shit, but also like love each other and be true to themselves. And it's just about their romance, and it's a really nice movie. It's beautiful. Okay. And then there's the movie Thelma. It came out in 2017, and there's some stuff with like dead birds, maybe. Directed by Joachim Trier, and it's about a young woman who goes to university and starts to kind of fall in love with one of her female classmates and is reckoning with that desire. It kind of triggers these like supernatural telekinetic or weird kind of abilities that she has. So it's kind of like a thriller, horror vibes. It is kind of about female power and religious trauma, and there's a lot of nature and animal imagery. I don't know. It's a good movie. I don't remember it that well because I haven't seen it in many years, but I remember enjoying it. I'm gonna have to rewatch that one, and maybe it would go further up on my tier list. Then I have The Matrix. I am including The Matrix because the Wachowski sisters have said that to them it is an allegory for transness. In addition to other things, obviously, there's the capitalism aspect of things. That's a very heavy thing too. Definitely a good movie. Very iconic culturally speaking, but you know, it's not my top, so it's in here. Then we have Call Me By Your Name. That's another Luca Guadagnino. Guadagnino. Guandanien. I don't remember how to say his name. That one's based on a novel that I also read. I actually wrote an essay about the movie versus the novel. I know that Call Me By Your Name is not as beloved, honestly, as some other queer movies. Some people find it even insufferable to an extent and like overly like pretentious and flowery, but I think that the aesthetic lushness of it is really just beautiful, and yeah, I kind of don't mind watching these like really rich, beautiful people in an Italian summer. I also have Ginger Snaps on here. That one is a movie with kind of weird lesbian undertones to it. Even I say weird, not that lesbians are weird, but because it's between sisters. Um, but they're like not. I don't know. It's like metaphorical, I guess. But it's like a werewolf movie. It's like really low budget, kind of feminist horror movie. It's very transgressive, and it's a really good movie. I like it. We also have Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. This one is another movie with Rachel Sennett in it. What is it with this woman and playing queer roles? She's not actually bisexual. I thought she was. I mean, not that like she needs to out herself if she is, but she says she's not. Be bisexual and Jewish. Stop lying to everyone. I liked that movie too. It's like a horror-ish thriller movie about these like teens in a mansion playing a game. I also have Mulholland Drive in this tier. It's a really good and beautiful movie, but I haven't seen it in very many years, so I just put it in this tier just because I didn't really have much to say about it. Then we have Priscilla, Queen of the Desert. This is an Australian movie where two drag queens and a trans woman are taking a road trip, and no one dies. And there's only a little hate criming, so it's not super depressing. I kind of thought it would be, based on the type of movie it is, but it's not. It's fun. It's a cute little movie. It's nothing super special to me, to be honest, which is why it's in this tier, but it's good. And then I have Rent. Don't come for me, okay? I'm a theater kid sometimes, and I think Rent is beautiful. I always cry at Rent. And then lastly, I have Poor Things. This was a really good movie. It's definitely it's odd. Okay, so Poor Things is also directed by Yorgos Lanthimos. I mean, what is it with him and queer women, huh? I don't know. It's about this woman who is kind of a fetus mind in a grown woman's body based on some weird mad scientist shit, and it's about her discovering her freedom and sexuality, and she eventually ends up with a woman, and it's good. It's a really good movie, but I don't know. It wasn't my favorite. I can't really place exactly why. Maybe it's just because I was kind of like I had smoked a little too much weed. Now let's move on to D tier. We're getting into the territory of movies that I'm like, okay. First I have Brokeback Mountain. I put this on D tier because I watched this so many years ago, like as a teen, when I was still discovering myself. And I had actually, I don't know if I had ever seen like gay sex before in a movie? Question mark?
That's such a funny thing.
Is it?
No.
I don't know. It's like kind of a sad, it's not very romantic, I'll tell you that. They're rough in it. There's not a lot of lube involved. I had to include it because I have watched it many years ago, and it's a really culturally important film in terms of, if you say gay movie, the first one that comes to mind is probably Brokeback Mountain, honestly. But it's fucking depressing. So, whatever. And then there's this movie Boys that I remember very little of. I think it's Swedish or some shit, probably Scandinavian. So I put it in D tier because I don't remember it. There's really a theme here, huh? I also put the Rocky Horror Picture Show in D tier. I'm sorry. It was important to me as a young queer person as well. And I do like going to see it at a live performance of it with the lip syncing cast and all the things that you're supposed to say and the props and whatever. It's a fun experience then, but the movie itself is really mid, honestly. It's about a bunch of like queer aliens. It has no plot. It's a weird musical. It's campy. It's fun. It's a fun movie, but it's not like good, you know? So I'm putting it in D tier. All right, let's move on down to E tier. Now we're getting into I'm not really a fan territory. The Danish Girl in E tier. I remember when this came out, you know, there was a lot of people saying, "Hey, Eddie Redmayne, why are you a cis man playing this really important trans female historical figure?" They really couldn't find any trans actress or even a cis woman actress to play this role. Like, we're really enforcing the trans women or a guy in a dress thing here, huh? So that's that movie. I did watch it, I think in theaters too, and it wasn't my least favorite movie ever because it is a compelling story, a true story at that, but it was not handled very well. I think there was an absence of actual trans or queer people involved in the production process and obviously the actor involved. So, not a fan of that one. Stranger by the Lake. Stranger by the Lake. What a bizarre viewing experience. There are very few movies of which I genuinely don't understand the critical acclaim. This was one of them. This movie is straight up porn for at least the first half an hour, dude. Like, and without getting into too much detail, I am pretty sure a lot of the sex acts are not simulated. Pro tip, do not try to watch this movie with a friend or your parents, dear God. Like, that shit will ruin your night. It gets such acclaim as, like, a really sexually honest movie that's, like, gay and homoerotic and also a thriller. But, like, I went into it thinking it was supposed to be a horror movie about murder. The murder doesn't happen until you get through, like, a bunch of sex scenes and a cum shot. Like, I just don't want that in my movies. I think French people are really fucking annoying. This is a French movie. And then we have Blue is the Warmest Color, yet another sexually gratuitous French film. I have had to do a bit of research on this movie to figure out whether my suspicions of it being like a fetishy male gaze depiction of lesbians thing is true. So it is directed by a man, Abdelatif Kechiche? Kashiche? I'm not sure how to pronounce his name, I'm sorry. But it was adapted from a graphic novel series by Jules Marot, who is a non-binary trans queer person. I'm pretty sure, at least at the time that they wrote it, they definitely identified as a lesbian. They might still, I'm not sure, but I feel like their graphic novel was, I'm sure, just a depiction of lesbian sexuality, whereas the adaptation was kind of filtered through a male gaze. There were really long, gratuitous sex scenes that felt like gross, and the person who wrote the novel on which it was based agrees that the sex scenes were gratuitous and fetishy and weird. It's also apparently there were some kind of, I guess, allegations that on set was a hostile work environment and that one of the actresses felt like she did not have a good experience on set and kind of felt exploited and like the sex scenes were not properly choreographed or like coordinated for the comfortability of the actors. And the director was really beefing with one of the actresses for a long time and saying that she like slandered him. It was this whole mess. So I think that those on-set working conditions do definitely confirm my suspicions that it is a very male gaze, like, steamy depiction of lesbians. All right. Now, the moment you've all been waiting for, let's go to F tier. These are movies that I find fucking dog shit. F stands for fucking dog shit. Okay, so I hated the movie Ammonite, directed by Francis Lee. I watched it with my mom, of all people, which was a bad choice, considering the gay sex stuff. But despite that, my main gripe with the movie is that it was so fucking boring. Dude, like, it's not like I hate fossils and geology and shit, but, like, they really did make a movie about rocks, huh? It literally just felt like I was kicking rocks. Period piece, lesbian romance, again, some of which, as we've established, I actually quite enjoyed. This one, not so much. Even though the fucking description of it on Letterboxd says that it was about an intense relationship and a passionate, all-consuming love affair, like, girl, there was not that much chemistry there. It was boring. It was dry. It was like watching paint dry. Very, very slow movie. Do not recommend this. Okay. So my next movie in F tier fucking dog shit movie is GBF. I do not remember anything about this movie because it was so fucking bad. GBF was like a shitty high school comedy directed by Darren Stein about a fucking, like, gay guy who doesn't want to be gay best friended and, like, relegated to that role. But, like, I don't know. It has no plot. It's bad. It's cheesy. It's stupid. It's very bad. To quote Letterboxd reviewer Neve, GBF stands for genuinely bad film. So it's very bad. Okay, so there's the movie Me, Him, Her, directed by known rapist Max Landis. This movie is basically about, like, a lesbian becoming not a lesbian anymore. All the jokes in the movie are not jokes. They're just like, haha, gay. The dialogue is terrible. It feels like all of it was ad-libbed, which apparently some of it was, like, a lot of it. It's just really, really bad. And finally, the worst movie on this list, we have Emilia Perez. What can I say about Emilia Perez?
Man to woman.
From penis to vagina.
AP News says, quote, on one hand, Emilia Perez is one of the most celebrated films of the year. It triumphed at the Golden Globes, earned 11 BAFTA nominations, and landed 13 Academy Award nominations. Only 3 movies ever have scored more. Entertainment Weekly calls it a, quote, wild, gritty, glitter-soaked ride that defies convention and classification, end quote. Some people, like Letterboxd user MadeRG, are praising it as, quote, ambitious, genre-defying, visually stunning, musically rich, and emotionally profound, end quote. I mean, it's definitely unique and bold. True. It does play with genre, and I think tries to be a profoundly emotional character study, maybe. I don't know what it's really trying to do, to be honest with you, other than win a bunch of awards. I guess it tries to speak more on, like, internal themes of human identity as opposed to larger social issues like trans rights, sexism, and cartel violence and corruption in Mexico. But the problem to me is that it should not avoid confronting these huge issues that are so woven into the very fabric of the film's setting. It needs to make an actual statement about it, otherwise it feels hollow and weird. An elephant in the room at best, and at worst it actively trivializes and misrepresents the struggles of marginalized people. Letterboxd user Comrade Yui puts it better than I ever could as someone who could not even get through the whole movie, to be real. This person's on YouTube as well, so you can check their channel out. Here, they wrote that Emilia Perez is made to represent so many contradictory things that in the end the film situates her as an icon rather than a real person. It is a crude mystification of everything the film claims to care about. And none of this is to mention the fact that director Audiard films his musical in the most patronizing, academicist way, an empty grab bag of techniques with no decisive point of view. The split-screen sequence near the climax is particularly punishing. What Emilia Perez offers is not meaning, but the sensation of supposedly meaningful things moving in rapid succession, and it hopes the resulting blur will pass by quick enough that we do not notice the superficiality of its style. In other words, a perfect film for awards season. End quote. It's superficial. That's what it is. Throwing spaghetti at the wall of various filmic techniques and genres and story types. It's nothing. It's nothing. It's a whole nothing burger. And on top of all of that, it's a film about Mexico with almost no Mexican people working on it, with the exception of actress Adriana Paz and, like, kinda Selena Gomez, who's Chicana, not, like, fully from Mexico, even. Mexican producer Hector Guillen tweeted this picture here. Mexico hates Emilia Perez. Racist Eurocentrist mockery. Almost 500K dead, and France decides to do a musical. Like, what in God's name convinced Jacques Audiard that he was remotely qualified to tell a story about a transgender Mexican cartel leader? Not that you always have to write what you know, but, like, why would you want to speak on behalf of people who are getting so much crap in global and especially American politics right now? Trans people, Mexican people, and then not even mention trans or Mexican people pretty much at all in your awards touring and speaking about the film. As a random white American guy, I don't have that much to say about, like, the Mexico cultural axis of the film, but about the trans stuff, I mean, look, it wasn't offensive per se, but, and this is a big but, look, if it was even 5 years prior, I would not have had as big a problem with it. I mean, at least they actually did cast a transgender actress, but, like, right now, of all times, when we're the hot button social issue, when our very existence is now a political debate, when the US government is trying its damnedest to fucking eradicate us from history, strip us of our rights and dignity, and perhaps even be rid of us altogether? Now. And not using it as an opportunity to advocate? Like, you clearly couldn't give less of a shit about trans people or Mexican people for that matter. You just want people to jerk you off about your brave, artsy, dumb fuck Oscar bait movie. And no, I'm not going to talk about Sofia Gascon's offensive tweets from past years. I just don't think it's particularly relevant to this movie. Yeah, that's the worst one of all of them. Emilia Perez is not queer cinema, but I did want to put it on the list, just so I could shit on it. I don't even know who it's made for. I've met no one in person who actually likes this movie. That's it. That's queer cinema for you. In her book, Queer Cinema, Schoolgirls, Vampires, and Gay Cowboys, Barbara Mennel describes queer film studies as an archaeology of alternative cinematic aesthetics organized around non-normative desires. Queer cinema is so much more than just stories on film about queer people. It is an entire mode of engaging with the medium, one centered on questioning and subverting conventions and power structures. It's awesome and really important to film as a whole, and its development as an art, and yeah, politically, it's important too. And you know what, I'm gonna say it, I think supporting queer film and queer artists in general is more important than ever right now, given the current political climate and the rise in vitriolic rhetoric about transgender people. Whoa, he's gone woke. But yeah, that was my love letter to queer cinema. The definitive queer cinema tier list is complete. Thank you for watching, and stay gay.
Nice to meet you. I'd like to know about sex change operation.
I see. Men to woman, or woman to men.
Man to woman.
From penis to vagina.